Welcome to the deep dive. We've received some really fascinating material from you all looking into, well, the potential for immortality through science, through technology.
Yeah, it's a huge topic.
So today we're going to dive into that. We'll look at the biology, the tech possibilities, and really try to pull out the key insights for you.
Absolutely. The text we looked at, The Science of Immortality, Living Forever Through Technology, it's a great starting point. It maps out, why we age, biologically speaking.
Right.
The different tech approaches being explored.
Yeah.
And some really big questions that come up.
Ethical questions, too, I imagine.
Definitely. So our mission here is to sort of unpack all that, understand the core ideas and what they really mean.
Okay, let's get right into it then. The text kicks off with the biology. Aging as basically damage building up in our cells.
Yeah, things like DNA errors,
Yeah.
cells just losing their ability to fix themselves, to regenerate properly. It accumulates over time.
It used to feel, just inevitable, part of life.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But scientists are now digging into the actual mechanisms. What's driving it?
And the text mentions these senescent cells, zombie cells.
That's right, zombie cells. It's a good description, actually. They're cells that should die off, but they don't. They just hang around.
Okay, so they're just there, not dividing.
Right. And worse, they pump out these inflammatory signals, kind of like bad neighbors causing trouble for the cells around them, damaging tissues.
And accelerating the whole aging process.
Precisely. It seems they play a pretty significant role.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The text points to research 2020, I think, where they cleared these senescent cells in mice.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And the results: better organ function, longer lifespan for the mice. Well, that's tangible, isn't it? It's not just theory.
Exactly. It shows targeting a specific mechanism can make a difference. It really shifts the perspective.
From aging just happening to us to it being something we might be able to, well, influence.
Influence or even intervene in.
Yeah.
That research and also the work people like David Sinclair at Harvard are doing.
Right.
It's pushing that idea.
Sinclair's work is on epigenetic reprogramming, is that right?
Yes. Essentially trying to reset the cell's software. Think of it like rebooting a computer that's gotten slow and buggy.
How does that work practically?
He uses something called Yamanaka factors.
Yeah.
These are specific proteins that can sort of turn back a cell's developmental clock, make it younger again, in a sense.
And that 2020 research you mentioned that used this kind of approach?
Well, related concepts, yes. They showed it could reverse some aspects of aging in mice, even restore vision.
Restore vision, wow.
Yeah, so it suggests we might not just slow aging, but potentially reverse it in certain ways. Turn back the clock, not just slow it down.
Okay, so that's the biological side, hacking our own cellular processes. But the text also talks about techno-immortality, moving beyond biology.
Right. This is where technology starts merging with our bodies or potentially replacing parts of the process altogether. Some really advanced concepts.
Like nanomedicine.
Exactly. Tiny, microscopic robots. The idea is they'd navigate our bloodstream.
Doing what? Like little mechanics?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Repairing damage at the cellular level, clearing out toxins, maybe even spotting and fighting off diseases like cancer right at the start.
An internal maintenance crew, basically.
That's a good way to put it. Continuous upkeep from the inside.
It does sound very sci-fi, but I know nanotechnology is a real field, making progress.
It is. And then you have things like cyborg integration. Brain-machine interfaces.
Like Neuralink.
Neuralink is probably the most high-profile example right now, yeah. Initially, the goals are more therapeutic, helping with memory, restoring movement for people with paralysis.
Which are amazing goals in themselves.
Absolutely incredible. But the text hints at the longer-term, maybe more radical potential, like backing up our minds.
Okay, backing up our minds. What does that actually mean? Copying connections, memories, our personality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The ultimate idea, often called mind uploading, is basically scanning the brain's structure and activity.
The whole thing.
The whole thing, ideally, and then emulating it on a powerful computer, a digital substrate.
Running us on a computer.
Essentially, yes. But the text is clear that this is very much theoretical right now, hugely complex.
I can imagine.
But the steps towards it involve things like connectome mapping, trying to map all the connections, the synapses, between neurons.
And there was that mouse brain map recently, right? The Allen Institute.
Yes, that 2023 research.
Yeah.
Incredibly detailed map of a section of a mouse brain. We're talking hundreds of thousands of neurons, 500 million synapses mapped.
Just for a mouse brain section, it shows the scale of the challenge for a human brain, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It highlights the sheer complexity. But it's also real progress in understanding that structure, which is critical if you ever want to simulate it.
So, if we could, theoretically, map and simulate a human brain, represent our neural activity digitally, what does that even mean for, well, us, for our sense of self?
Profound questions. The text definitely pushes us there. If your consciousness, your thoughts, memories could exist digitally, is that still you?
Which brings us squarely into the ethical and philosophical side of things. Even if the tech gets there, should we?
Exactly. The text raises some really critical points we need to wrestle with.
Like equitable access. Would this just be for the super rich?
That's a huge concern, creating an even bigger gap between haves and have-nots. And what about overpopulation? Resource strain.
And does living forever, or just vastly longer, diminish the meaning of life somehow? If there's no endpoint, does urgency disappear? Does value change?
It might. Or maybe it just changes the focus. And then there's the whole continuity problem with mind uploading.
Go on.
If you upload your mind, is that digital version you? Or is it just a perfect copy? Does the original you cease to exist?
So the copy lives on digitally, but the original consciousness ends.
That's the philosophical debate. Where does identity reside? Is it purely the pattern of information, or is it tied intrinsically to our biological wetware?
Deep stuff. Does the text offer any counterarguments?
It hints at the idea that maybe the focus shifts. Instead of just duration of life, perhaps it becomes about the expansion of consciousness itself in ways we can't currently grasp.
Interesting. Okay, so looking ahead, what's the current state of play? What are the trends?
Well, like we touched on, there's serious money flowing into this. Companies like Altos Labs attracting huge investment for age reversal therapies. That signals real belief in the potential, at least financially.
Right. It's not just fringe science anymore.
Definitely not. Then you have cryonics people choosing to be preserved at very low temperatures.
Hoping for future revival when the technology exists.
That's the hope, yes. Still faces major scientific hurdles, obviously, but it's an active field.
And AI. You mentioned brain simulation.
AI and quantum computing? Potentially. They could be game changers for modeling something as complex as the brain, maybe accelerating the path towards realistic simulation or even emulation.
The text brings up Ray Kurzweil, too, and his prediction, the singularity.
Yeah, Kurzweil's prediction of a technological singularity around 2045, a point where AI surpasses human intelligence, and we might merge with it.
Leading to a kind of hybrid biological digital immortality.
That's his vision, yes. A very bold prediction and certainly debated. But it highlights how these different technological paths might converge.
But for now.
For now, as the text rightly concludes, death is still a fundamental part of our reality.
But this whole exploration, this deep dive, it really feels like the pursuit itself, whether we achieve immortality or not, is forcing us to rethink what life even means.
I think that's spot on. It's pushing the boundaries of our understanding, maybe expanding it beyond what we can currently imagine.
We've covered a lot. The biology, the zombie cells, the potential reversals.
The nanobots, the brain interfaces, the mind uploading possibilities.
And those really big ethical and identity questions that just hang there.
Absolutely. It's a complex picture with huge implications.
So for everyone listening, after hearing all this, thinking about the science, the tech, the philosophy, the text leaves us with some core questions.
Yeah, questions like, if you could choose to live forever or vastly longer, would you?
Is overcoming death something science should strive for? Or is mortality natural, maybe even necessary?
And that identity question. If your consciousness could exist digitally, separate from your body, would that still be you?
Lots to ponder there. It really challenges you to think about the future of being human, doesn't it?
It certainly does. The future of life might be far more expansive or perhaps just different than we currently conceive.
A fascinating and slightly unsettling thought to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.